my channel Anupma Biology classes. In this video, we will see a complete account of disorders of immune system which is taken from immunology series. This video is from CBSE class 12, chapter 8, part 4. So here, before disorder, at first we will have to know that what is immune response. Immune response is a reaction which occurs within an organism for the purpose of defending against foreign invaders, and it is of two types, in which the first one is primary immune response. So what is primary immune response? Here in this picture you can see the reaction of the body's immune system to the first attack of microbes is called primary immune response. During a primary response, the antigens eventually disappears from the blood, having been destroyed by antibodies and killer T cells or macrophages. This takes about a week, it means 5 to 10 days after the microbial attack. During this period, B cells divide and mature into plasma cells that produce enough antibodies to destroy the antigen. It takes about a week or so for the influenza symptoms to disappear. Recovery from an infection shows that the body's immune system is working. So in this picture you can see that how the pathogen attached with the B cell, then the B cell engulf and break down the pathogen, then B cells displace the pathogen's antigen, then T cell bind to the pathogens to antigens and send a chemical signal alerting the rest of the immune system. And after this you can see here the formation of memory cells and the plasma cells, and then the B cells divide into memory and plasma, and here the plasma cells release antibodies that destroys the pathogen with the same antigens. The memory cells remains inactive until the same pathogen is encountered, again triggering a second immune response. The memory cells produce the plasma cells at the faster rate than the primary immune response. So this is all about the primary immune response. Now the second immune response is secondary immune response. So what is secondary immune response? The reaction of the body's immune system to any subsequent infection of the same microbe is termed secondary immune response. This response is quicker and more intense than the primary immune response. This is so because the memory B cells are present to quickly deal with the invading microbes by forming antibodies. Body remembers that it has previously encountered this type of infection. So, the primary response is the slow, sluggish and short-lived with long lag phase and does not persist for a long time, while the secondary response is prompt, powerful and prolonged with short or negligible lag phase and with higher level of antibodies. So here you can see that the initial exposure to antigen at the primary immune response and the second exposure to antigen at the secondary immune response. Now, what are the main difference between the primary immune response and secondary immune response? So, the primary immune response is the reaction of the immune system when it contacts an antigen for the first time, while the secondary immune response is the reaction of the immune system when it contacts an antigen for the second and subsequent times. So here you can see in case of primary immune response, IgM is the first antibody to appear in the primary immune response, while IgG appears earlier than in the primary immune response, and then final concentration of IgG is higher than in the primary response in case of secondary immune response. So this is all about the primary immune response and the secondary immune response. Now, functions of macrophages. Because in the previous video of the immunology series, we discussed about the macrophages. Now in this video, we will see what is the role of macrophages in our body, in immune system. So there are many functions of the macrophages, in which the first one is defense. Wandering macrophages, which are also called histiocytes, dispose of microbes in the connective tissue. And here the fixed macrophages destroy microbes in the blood and lymph. Second role is giant cell formation. Many macrophages may fuse to form a large multinucleate giant cell to capture a foreign body too big for a single macrophage to engulf. Next is scavenging. Macrophages also dispose of the dead tissue cells and non-cellular foreign matter. Next is antigen display. Macrophages carry the antigens of the engulfed microbes on their surface to display them to the lymphocytes in the lymphatic nodes. This activates the immune system. And the last is secretion of endogenous pyrogen. Macrophages secrete interleukin, that is IL-1, also called endogenous pyrogen. It plays a role in inflammatory response, it causing fever, and in activation of other phagocytic cells as well as the T and B cells to produce their effects. So these are all about the functions of macrophages, in which the first one is defense, then giant cell formation, then scavenging, then antigen display, and the last is secretion of endogenous pyrogen. After this, now immune system in the body. So immune system comprises here lymphoid organs, tissues, cells, and soluble molecules like antibodies. This system is unique as it recognizes foreign bodies, that is antigen, responds to these antigens and remember them. Besides, it plays a role in allergic reactions, autoimmune disease, and organ transplantations. So here you can see the lymphoid organs, which are tonsils, thymus, spleen, aggregated lymphoid nodules in intestine and appendix. So the organs are the site. Here you can see that. What are the lymphoid organs? Lymphoid organs are the site where the lymphocytes originate and mature and proliferate. So lymphoid organs have different categories, in which the first one is primary lymphoid organs. So this includes bone marrow and thymus especially. In these organs, immature lymphocytes differentiate into antigen sensitive lymphocytes. After maturation, the lymphocytes migrate to the secondary lymphoid organs, in which here the first one, that is the bone marrow. Here in this picture you can see it is the main lymphoid organ where all blood cells including lymphocytes are produced. It is a site for the development and maturation of B lymphocytes. Second is thymus. Thymus is lobed organ situated beneath the sternum near the heart. Thymus is quite large in size at the time of birth but keeps on reducing with age. At puberty, it reduces to a very small size. It is a site for the development and maturation of T lymphocytes. After this, now the second is secondary lymphoid organs. What is secondary lymphoid organs? These include spleen, lymph nodes, tonsils, bare patches of the small intestine, and appendix. Secondary lymphoid organs are the site for the interactions of the lymphocytes with the antigen and consequently their proliferation to become effector cells. So in this case, in case of secondary lymphoid organs, first one, that is the spleen, which is a large bean-shaped organ having white pulp and red pulp. It mainly consists of lymphocytes, phagocytes, and it also a reservoir of the erythrocytes. Spleen acts as a filter of blood as it traps blood-borne microorganisms. Now second is lymph nodes. These are small solid structures located at specific sites along the lymphatic system. Antigens that happens to enter in the lymph and tissue fluid activate the lymphocytes present inside the lymph node, leading to the immune response. So these are all about the secondary lymphoid organs. Now tertiary lymphoid organs. So here the physiological role of the tertiary lymphoid organs, which is non-constitutive structure, is stimulated by long-lasting microbial or antigenic factors and typical mucosal associated location. So what is mucosal associated location? That is we know that it is also known as MALT, M-A-L-T. This comprises lymphoid tissues and that are located within the lining of respiratory tract, digestive tract and the urinogenital tract. MALT consists about 50% of the lymphoid tissue in human body. The lymphoid tissues of the gut is also called gut-associated lymphoid tissues or GALT, gut. So this is tertiary lymphoid organ. But mainly, lymphoid organs are of the two main types, in which the first one, that is the primary lymphoid organs, in which bone marrow and thymus present, and the second is secondary lymphoid organs, in which lymph node, spleen and tonsils present. So this is all about the lymphoid organs. After this, the next main topic here is disorders of immune system. So how many disorders we will discuss here? First one, that is the allergies, then autoimmunity, then immunodeficiency, then AIDS. So these four disorders we will discuss here. So at first here, which disorder? That is allergies. So what is allergy? Allergy is the inappropriate immune response of a person to harmless substances coming in contact with the body or entering the body from the environment or in food or in medicine. A specialist in the treatment of allergy is called allergist. So now here you can see that what is allergy? It means what are the agents which caused allergy, means allergens. The substance which cause allergic reactions are called allergens. They are generally weak antigens. The common allergens are dust mites, cat saliva, pollen, mold spores, feathers, fur, venom, food and drugs. Some 10% of the human population suffer from allergies. So here you can see some food items which are allergens, that is gluten, lupin, celery, crustaceans, milk, sulfur dioxide, sesame, mollusk, mustard, tree nuts, egg, fish, soybean and peanuts. So these are the allergens. Now, what are the symptoms of allergy? Allergic reaction depends on the nature of the allergen. The common allergic reactions are inflammatory of mucous membranes, sneezing, gasping, running eyes, irritation of upper respiratory tract, itching, skin rashes and many more. To cure allergy, its specific allergen must be found out and this is not an easy job. So, what are the symptoms of allergy? In skin, hives, swelling, warmth, redness. In case of respiration, that means respiratory tract, coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, hay fever symptoms, etc. Next is gastrointestinal, that means nausea, stomach pain or cramps, vomiting, diarrhea. In case of cardiovascular, dizziness, weakness of pulse, fainting, shock, loss of consciousness, and neurological symptoms are an anxiety, feeling of impending doom. So, all the symptoms you can see here, it's a severe allergic reaction, that are the hives, swelling, itching, warmth, redness, coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, chest pain, tightness, trouble swallowing, hoarse voice, nasal cognition, hay fever like symptoms, dizziness, lightheadedness, pale blue color, weak pulse, fainting, loss of consciousness, shock, nausea, diarrhea, stomach cramps, vomiting, anxiety, feeling of impending doom and headache. So these all are the symptoms of severe allergic reactions. Now, what causes allergies? It means what are the causes of allergies? Allergies seem to result from the improper immune mechanism. First exposure to an allergen dose not causes allergy. So, the first exposure to an allergen is called sensitizing dose. In most persons, the T cells recognize the antigens as harmless and prevent the B cells from responding to it. In allergic people, something goes wrong, the body develops a primary immune response in which the B cells produce group E antibodies. This makes the body sensitive to allergens. On next exposure to allergen, the body shows a secondary immune response called allergy or a hypersensitive response, which is termed as shocking dose. So, the antibodies to allergens join the receptors on the mast cells and basophils. The allergens combine with the antibody bound mast cells and basophils. This complexing ruptures the mast cell and basophils, releasing histamine. Now, types of allergies. Allergies are a different type, like in case of skin contact, poison plants, latex, animal dander, jewelry, etc. In case of ingestion, milk, medication, nuts and shellfish. In case of injection, medication and bee sting. In case of inhalation, pollen, dust, mold and mildew, animal dander. So these are the types of allergy. Now, what are the common terms which are used in allergy? So allergen. What is allergen? That is antigen, bland substance like serum protein or pollen. Sensitizing or priming dose. What is initial contact with allergen? Next is shocking dose. That is the second contact with the same allergen. That is manifestations of the hypersensitivity. And haptens, which is used in allergy, are incomplete antigen. So according to definition, injurious consequence in the sensitized host following contact with a specific antigen is called as hypersensitivity. When an allergen enters the host, it sensitizes the immune system and leads to priming of B or T lymphocytes. This dose of antigen is called as sensitizing dose or priming dose. When antigen, the identical or immunologically closely related antigens enters the same host, that is AG-AB reaction, that means antigen antibody reaction takes place, which results into hypersensitivity. This dose of antigen is called shocking dose. So here what is the role of histamine, which acts as an allergy mediator? The histamine acts as an allergy mediator and it increases permeability of capillaries, constricts smooth muscles in many parts such as those around the bronchioles, causing breathing problems, and stimulates mucous glands. It also widens the small arteries but not the veins. Thus, the affected area receives more blood than in return. As a result of this, fluid accumulates in the tissues which swells up. Here in this picture, you can see that how the allergy results from release of histamine by rupturing of the mast cells. So the first time an allergy prone person runs across an allergen such as ragweed, then he or she makes large amounts of ragweed IgE antibody. Then these IgE molecules attach themselves to the mast cells. Then the second time that person has a brush with the ragweed, then IgE primed mast cells release granules and the powerful chemicals mediators such as histamine and cytokines into the environment. These chemical mediators cause the characteristic symptoms of the allergy. So this is the role of allergic substances and how the histamine release at the time of allergy. Here there are different types of allergies, in which the first one here is hay fever. So what is hay fever? If the antigen is pollen, the areas affected are the mucous membrane of the eyes and nose. The allergic reaction results in swollen, redness, running eyes and nose. This condition is called hay fever. And antihistamine pills give relief by nullifying histamine but does not stop cell damage. So hay fever symptoms are tiredness, painful temples and the forehead, earache, loss of smell, sneezing and coughing, headache, itchy red or watery eyes, running or blocked nose, itchy throat, mouth and ears. Now here you can see the top medicines to help with hay fever, that is allergic tablets, then adult nasal drops, then eye drops and nasal spray. So these are the medicines which help to prevent the hay fever. Now, the second is asthma. What is asthma? If allergic reactions occurs further down in the respiratory tract, the tissue surrounding the tubes leading to the lungs swells up and compresses the tubes. So here the movement of air to the lungs through these tubes is impeded. This condition is called asthma, and the treatment of asthma is also an antihistamine. So what are the symptoms of asthma? That is labored breathing, frequent coughing, wheezing, allergies, sleep problems, common cold, chest pain and feeling tired. So what causes which triggers the asthma? That is pollution, smoking, household chemicals, genetic, food, fatty food, dust, pets and bacteria and viruses. Now here you can see that what's occur in asthma, that is bronchoconstriction mechanism. At first picture you can see the normal airway, then the asthmatic airway where the wall inflamed and thickened, and the last is asthmatic airway during attack. So here you can see that in the normal airway released smooth muscles present, while in case of asthmatic airway during attack tightened smooth muscles present. So this is what occur in the asthma process, that means the bronchoconstriction mechanism. Now asthma control, how is it measured? So in case of asthma control, lung functions, we will check then the daytime symptoms, then nighttime awakenings, use of quick relief, inhaler and nebulizer, patient self-report of control, missed work and or school, functional status, satisfaction with care, utilization of healthcare resources and direct or indirect inflammations. These are how we can measure that asthma. Now, the next is here, that is anaphylactic shock. So, what is anaphylactic shock? Allergic reactions may occur in all the tissues of the body. Such a reaction is very serious and is called anaphylactic shock. The antigen may be some poison such as bee sting, some injection such as penicillin or some food taken orally. Histamine released from the ruptured mast cells and basophils causes marked dilation of all the arteries throughout the body, leakage of large amount of the fluid from the blood into the tissues and a drastic fall in the blood pressure. So in case of symptoms of anaphylactic shock, here you can see that dizziness, loss of consciousness, labored breathing, swelling of the tongue and breathing tubes, blueness of the skin, low blood pressure and the heart failure. So in case of anaphylactic shock, pulling of blood in the abdominal arteries deprives the brain of blood. There is sudden itching and fiery red skin eruption all over the body. The affected person may vomit and have diarrhea. Face, tongue and larynx swell up. Breathing becomes difficult due to contractions of the smooth muscles around the bronchioles. The individual may lose consciousness and the individual may die within a short time. An injection of epinephrine can save the victim. Antihistamine and the corticosteroids are also effective. Now, the reasons for the allergy. Why some people have allergies while most do not is not known. So, allergies tend to run in families, suggesting that they have a genetic basis. It has been found that the breastfed infants are less prone to certain allergies later in life than the bottle-fed ones. The allergic persons have a consolation as they are less likely to develop tumors than the others. So there are many reasons like the drug allergies, food allergies, other types of allergies with insects, heat, cold exposure, stress. So there are many reasons for the allergies. Now, autoimmunity. So what is autoimmunity? The immune system may at times reject certain tissues of a person's own body as non-self. This breakdown of the body's self-recognition system is called autoimmunity. The tissues which show antigenic activity in the same body are termed autoantigens. The molecules synthesized to attack such tissues are known as autoantibodies. So, these are all about the autoimmunity. Here, autoimmunity seems to run in families. Now, we will see that what are the autoimmune disease. So, there are many autoimmune diseases like the autoimmune reaction causes a variety of disease, and here the nature of such disease depends on the autoantigen involved. See, in this picture you can see the anemia, that is if it is RBC, that means autoantigens. Then there is an excessive destruction of body's own RBCs and the disease is called chronic anemia. In this picture you can see the normal amount of red blood cells and anemic amount of red blood cells. If it is in the muscles, body's own muscles are destroyed, causing severe muscular weakness. Now, if liver cells act as an autoantigen, chronic hepatitis results from destructions of the liver cells. Other autoimmune diseases are many, but here in this picture you can see that what occur in the chronic hepatitis. That means stage first, that is inflammation, scar tissue begins to form, then scar tissues build up, then the cirrhosis, that means most liver tissues replaced by the scar tissues. Now, in case of autoimmune disease, next is insulin dependent diabetes. So there are two types of diabetes. First one is insufficient insulin and the second is insulin resistance. So in case of insufficient insulin, here this is the type 1 diabetes. Here you can see that the less insulin present and less glucose being stored and are used in organs, then increased level of glucose in blood. And next is diabetes second type, that is insulin independent, that is organs unresponsive to insulin, so less glucose being stored. So in type 2, organ unresponsiveness, while in case of type 1st, less insulin present. So but in both cases increased level of glucose in the blood. So what are the main difference in between type 1 and type 2? Type 1 is known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, that is IDDM. The pancreas makes no insulin. It is a result of progressive and irreversible destruction of the islets by the patient's immune system. So according to treatment, blood glucose level measurement here, then the daily insulin injections, exercise and diet. While in case of type 2nd or non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, that is NIDDM, the pancreas produces some insulin but often not sufficient to lower the blood glucose level to normal. And the treatment is blood glucose measurements, oral medication, exercise and diet, and the insulin injection. So this is the difference between the type 1st and type 2nd diabetes. Now here in this picture you can see the rheumatoid arthritis, which is also an autoimmune disease. So what is in this? Here you can see that in case of rheumatoid arthritis, it is a chronic inflammatory disorder affecting many joints, including those in the hands and feet. In this, the body's immune system attacks its own tissues, including joints. In severe cases, it attacks internal organs. So, treatment can help, but this condition can't be cured. It is more than 1 million causes per year in India, and the symptoms are joint linings causing painful swelling over long period of time. The inflammation associated with the rheumatoid arthritis can cause bone erosion, joint deformities, etc. Now, after this, the next disease is adhesion disease. So, what is adhesion disease? Here in this picture you can see some symptoms on the adrenal glands, adrenal crisis, that means fever, syncope, convulsions, hypoglycemia, hyponatremia, severe vomiting and diarrhea. In the skin, hyperpigmentation occur, low blood pressure, weakness, weight loss. In gastrointestinal, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, abdominal pain, and in the skin, vitiligo occur. So in case of this is all about the addition disease. But what is addition disease? It is a disorder in which the adrenal glands don't produce enough hormones. Specifically, the adrenal glands produce insufficient amount of the hormones cortisol and sometimes aldosterone too. When the body is under stress, this deficiency of cortisol can result in a life-threatening addition here. That means Addisonian crisis characterized by low blood pressure, and it occurs fewer than 1 million cases per year. Now the next is here ulcerative colitis. So what is ulcerative colitis? It is a chronic inflammatory bowel disease that causes inflammation in the digestive tract. It is usually only in the here, that means internal lining of the large intestine and rectum. Forms here the range from mild to severe, and having ulcerative colitis puts the patient at increased risk of developing colon cancer. Now after this here, immunodeficiency. So what is immunodeficiency? Immunodeficiency is an increased susceptibility to infectious disease due to immune disorder. It is a genetic disorder. Now, if we talk about the types of immunodeficiency, first one, that is the primary immune deficiency. Here you can see that antibody, combined, phagocytes, complement and the cellular percentage. And the distribution of the primary immunodeficiency, which is combined cellular and antibody deficiency 15%, cellular deficiency is 5%, phagocytic cell deficiency is 10%, complement deficiency is 5%, and antibody deficiency 65%. So what is primary immunodeficiency? Which exists from the birth. A person may lack B cells or T cells or both from birth. Such a person is highly susceptible to infection. A serious congenital disease called severe combined immunodeficiency, that is SCID, results from the absence of both B and T cells. In developed countries, such children have been kept alive in germ-free isolation suits similar to spacesuits. SCID is caused by a defect in the gene that codes for the enzyme adenosine deaminase. Lack of this enzyme makes the body defenseless against infection. Now, secondary immunodeficiency. Secondary immunodeficiency here, that is acquired immunodeficiency, which occurs in individuals in which originally normal immune system gets impaired due to prolonged illness, malnutrition, radiations and use of certain drugs. Hodgkin's disease and AIDS are the secondary immune disease. So here you can see the stages here in case of Hodgkin's disease. That means in case stage 1, localized disease, single lymph node region or the single region. Then in second stage, 2 or more lymph node regions on the same side of the diaphragm. Then stage 3, 2 or more lymph nodes regions above and below the diaphragm. And in the last stage, widespread disease, multiple organs with or without lymph node involvement. So these occur in the Hodgkin's disease. Here you can see that SCID, which is the first genetic disorder to combat with the help of gene therapy. So here you can see that the bacterium carrying plasmid with a cloned normal human ADA gene attached with the genetically disordered here retrovirus. Then cloned ADA gene is incorporated into virus. Then retrovirus infects blood cells, transfer ADA genes to the cells. Then cells are grown in the culture to ensure ADA gene inactive. Then genetically altered cells are reimplant, produce ADA and T cells isolated from SCID patient. So this is the way of gene therapy in the SCID. Now, after this, the disorder which is in the second immunodeficiency, which is AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is the main topic in the human health and diseases. AIDS is a serious health problem that threatens the entire human population. It is the fastest spreading incurable disease. AIDS was first noticed in USA in 1981. It is the disorder of cell-mediated immune system of the body. There is a reduction in the number of helper T cells which stimulate antibody productions by the B cells. This results in the loss of natural defense against viral infection. It is caused by a virus named HIV, that is human immunodeficiency virus. The virus was discovered in 1984 by American and the French scientists independently. Their names are Robert Gallo and Luc Montagnier respectively. AIDS may have passed from a monkey host into the human population in Africa during the 1960s. It is heartening to know that only 10% of the people who get AIDS virus infection actually develops full-blown AIDS. Now, here you can see that how the transmission of AIDS occur. So, AIDS is transmitted only by a contact of infected cells containing blood of a patient with the blood of a healthy person, like unprotected sexual intercourse with an infected partner if there is tissue injury to permit blood contact, use of contaminated needles and syringes to inject drugs or vaccines, use of contaminated razors for saving, use of contaminated needles for boring pinna, transfusion of infected blood or blood products, organ transplants, artificial insemination, parturition from mother to baby due to rupturing of the blood vessels. So, the sexual route of transmission accounts for over 75% of the infection. Now, how the AIDS, it means HIV transmitted by unprotected sex, drug addicts, blood transfusion, pregnancy, and non-sterile instruments. And how the HIV or AIDS is not transmitted, that is touching through food, with a kiss, insects bite in the pool. So, you can get HIV from kissing, hugging, sharing food. You can't get it. Insects bite, toilet seats, bathing, sneezing and cough, sweating, etc. So, contacts that do not spread disease, that means AIDS, are these. Before this, contrary to widespread fear, AIDS is not a contagious disease. It does not spread by causal contact such as handshake, body contact in crowded public places, walking or playing together, sharing telephones, mails, utensils or clothes, eating food cooked by an infected person, light kissing, using same toilet seat or the swimming pools. It is not transmitted by the blood-sucking insects such as mosquitoes. Coughing and sneezing too do not spread AIDS. Healthcare workers, friends and family members do not contact here AIDS from the patient. So AIDS virus has been found in urine, tears, saliva, breast milk and vaginal secretion, but it seems not be transmitted by this fluid unless it gets into a cut. Now here you can see the structure of the AIDS virus. HIV is 100 to 140 nm in diameter, has a cylindrical core, single-stranded linear RNA and reverse transcriptase enzyme surrounded by glycoprotein coat, double lipid membrane and two protein coats here. It is diploid as it has two copies of the RNA molecules. HIV is found in blood and semen and to a lesser extent in milk, tears and saliva. It is a retrovirus, which means that its genetic material is RNA, which can mix a DNA copy of itself with the help of reverse transcriptase enzyme. The virus binds specifically to a surface receptor on a helper T cells and introduces its RNA and reverse transcriptase enzyme into the cells. Here it multiplies and the release of new viruses destroys the cells. AIDS occur when the number of helper T cells falls too low to fight the disease. So this is the structure of HIV virus. Here you can see. Now, age and sex distribution. AIDS has primarily affected young adults. In USA, far more males are affected than females. In Africa, both sexes are affected in equal numbers. Incubation period of AIDS. The incubation period of AIDS ranges between 6 months to over 7 years. Average is 28 months. And the risk groups, these include homosexuals, intravenous drug abusers, hemophiliacs, recipients of the transfused blood and the blood products, and heterosexual sex partners of the AIDS patient. So, AIDS can't be spread by sharing food, bed linen, doorknobs, telephones, towel combs, swimming pools, traveling, shaking hands, living and working with infected persons, kissing, hugging, toilet seat, mosquitoes, flies, and other insects. So, is there a cure for AIDS? There is no cure for AIDS. There are drugs that can slow down the HIV virus and slow down the damage to your immune system. There is no way to clear the HIV out of your body. Other drugs can prevent or treat opportunistic infections. In most cases, these drugs work very well. The newer, stronger ARVs have also helped reduce the rates of most here opportunistic infection. A few opportunistic infections, however, are still very difficult to treat. So, how HIV affected our body? At first, the virus enters the immune cells, then gets integrated to the cell's nucleus, then replicates inside the cells, then ultimately destroys the immune cell, then immunodeficiency occurs, and after this the multiple infections occur in our body. So AIDS is not a single disease, it's a group of disease. Is there a treatment for HIV or AIDS? There's no vaccine to prevent HIV infection and no cure for AIDS, but it's possible to protect yourself and others from infection. That means educating yourself about HIV and avoiding any behavior that allows HIV infected fluids, that is blood, semen, vaginal secretions, and breast milk into your body. So, how can we prevent HIV? Follow safe sexes practices. Tell your sexual partner you have HIV. If your partner is pregnant, tell her you have HIV. Tell others who need to know. Don't share needles or syringes. Don't donate blood or organs. Don't share razor blades or toothbrushes. If you are pregnant, get medical care right away. So these are the preventive measures, that means steps that help to controlling the disease. Now, after this, here you can see the clinical manifestations of AIDS. So there are many clinical manifestations of AIDS like the immunologic, integumentary, respiratory, gastrointestinal, central nervous system. And here some opportunistic infections occur like the protozoal infections, fungal infections, bacterial infections, viral infections, some malignancies, and AIDS dementia complex. So these are the clinical manifestations of AIDS. So in case of manifestations, AIDS can manifest in two major ways. First one, that is the malignant tumors in connective tissues, and the second is viral, bacterial, protozoan, and fungal infections of any system of the body. There are destructions of the WBCs, damage to brain, unexplained fever, unexplained loss of appetite, unexplained loss of weight over a short time, chronic diarrhea, cough, night sweats, enlargement of lymph glands, shortness of breath, and weakness in AIDS occur. Now, screening test. What is a screening test? AIDS patients generally have circulating antibodies which can be detected. In many countries, this test is done as a routine on blood donor. Screening may prove harmful to victims. Persons found to be HIV positive become depressed and suicidal and are denied insurance, evicted from their houses, fired from their jobs. Remember that only a small minority of such persons are likely to develop full-blown AIDS. However, the infected persons may spread infections to others. Now, the position in the world. At present, over 13 to 15 million people are infected with the HIV in the world and over 2 million people have died. It is estimated that up to 120 million people will have AIDS virus infection in the world by the year 2000. Now, position in India. The first case of AIDS from India was reported in Chennai prostitute in 1986. The number of seropositive cases is small so far. About 20 lakhs HIV positive cases have been reported in the country, and out of these, some 20,000 are in an advanced stage. About 251 HIV positive cases have been detected in Punjab till recently, out of which 50 are in the advanced stage. It is feared that the AIDS virus may spread very rapidly in our country because there is practically no control over blood donors and blood banks, and not all hospitals use disposable needles and syringes, and drug abuse is on the increase. So, the World Health Organization has estimated that by the year 2000, 4 million Indians will be infected with the HIV virus and over 1,70,000 would have AIDS. So, two types of viruses have been detected in India, HIV first and HIV second, both of which weaken the body's immune system. Now, AIDS-related complexes, that is ARC. So, what is AIDS-related complex? Here, has illness caused by the damage to immune system but without the opportunistic infections and cancers associated with the AIDS. They may exhibit unexplained diarrhea lasting more than a month, fatigue, malaise, loss of body's weight, fever, night sweats. Sign of mild infection like oral thrush, generalized lymphadenopathy, enlarged spleen, etc. So in this, it is a mild form of AIDS. In fact, it stays in the development of AIDS. Its symptoms include swollen lymph nodes, fever, night sweats, and loss of weight. What percentage of ARC change to AIDS is not known. After this, now the immunosuppression in organ transplants. So what is this? Organs such as kidney and heart are transplanted these days. An important problem that arises in such operations is that the recipient body rejects the transplanted organs as non-self. Rejection of the transplanted organ is due to cellular immune response by T cells. For a transplant to be successful, the antigen of a donor should match those of the recipient as closely as possible. For preventing rejections of the transplanted organs, drugs called immunosuppressants are used for transplant operations. These drugs check the occurrence of the immune response, and they mostly work by preventing lymphocyte cell division. The immunosuppressants, besides being very costly, are harmful too. They make the recipient of transplanted organ highly susceptible to infections. The kidneys for transplantation is generally taken from a sibling to reduce the chances of its rejection. The organ taken from a donor having a genetic constitution similar or closely related to that of the recipient is less likely to be rejected. So, the immune system can also be suppressed by radiation. Efforts are being made for finding ways to suppress only that part of the immune response which is produced by the transplanted organs while keeping the rest of the immune system active to fight infection. So this is the end of video in which we know about the immune response, functions of macrophages, lymphoid organs, disorders of the immune system and immunosuppressions in the organ transplants. Now, the next upcoming video will be on cancer, which is also a main topic and very vast topic. So, if you understand this video, please like and share it and subscribe to my channel Upma Biology Classes. If you have any questions, any queries or any suggestions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for the watching.